How does Jackson handle the nullification crisis? He issues the force bill, which says the government can send in troops. As president, he can send in troops to enforce bills. Okay, and he plans on sending in the army to collect tariffs if necessary. Why did the crisis begin? Well, it begins because of the South Carolina Exposition and protest. Calhoun's theory is nullification. Pairing of speakers on it, Webster Haney debates one example. Webster from Massachusetts opposed to nullification, wants everybody to get along, wants the, we have to support look at the entire economy, not just what's good for the South type of thing. Mr. Haney is from South Carolina. He supports the Southern viewpoint that, states' rights are better than central government rights. And so as this debate rages on, we have Mr. Clay step up. And Clay, remember, is the great compromiser, and he promotes the Compromise of 1833, or the Compromise tariff. What was his first compromise? No. Good guess, though. He wasn't around yet. He would have been a little boy, maybe, in that time period. Missouri is his first compromise. Excellent. Missouri Compromise 1820 is his first job, and then the Compromise of 1833, and his final compromise is 1850. Those are the three Henry Clay compromises. Anyway, the compromise tariff says the tariff of abominations is gone. We'll gradually go back to the tariff rates of 1816. Southerners are appeased for a time period, though they still are grumbly about taxes. Peggy Eaton, remember, she was the wife of the Secretary of War. She worked in a tavern because her dad owned it, so a lot of the women snubbed her. Jackson liked her because she was happy and go-lucky, and his wife had died, and so he was very sad. Specie Circular, issued by Jackson in 1836. He's killed off the bank. There's a huge amount of speculation on land with bank notes. So he issues the Specie Circular, which says that federal land must be paid for with gold or silver. And another word for gold or silver is specie. Okay? Does this prevent a panic? No, because it's too late. The panic starts months later in 1837. Bank war. The second bank of the United States. Why destroy it? How destroy it? Why did Jackson want to destroy it? It only helped the elite. How did he destroy it? He ordered the Secretary of Treasury, a guy named Roger B. Taney, to not deposit any more government money into the National Bank, but to pay the bills out of it. So it took the money out, but didn't put any in. Where did he put the government money? In Pet Bank, which is about 3 terms below this, or 2 terms below this. Pet banks were privately owned banks, and you became a pet bank owner if you were a good Democrat. Okay? If you were a good Whig, your bank didn't get diddly squat in terms of money, but if you owned a good Democratic bank, then you got maybe some deposit. And the idea was that you would turn around and loan out that money, that kind of thing. The greatest immediate effect of getting rid of the bank, more credit speculation. Banks began to offer banknotes and print banknotes, partially because the National Bank had called in loans that they had made. There was a shortage of gold and silver, so they issued more paper money, which caused more speculation, and then the crash comes again. Cause of the Panic of 1837, well, destroying the bank is one of them. And the other one is over speculation on land again. Too much land being bought on credit. So when there's no more bank left, we have to come up with some way to run the country's money. And so when Martin Van Buren runs for president in 1836, he runs on a platform of an independent treasury system, which is kind of what we have today. That the government will take care of putting its money in a treasury and paying its bills, but it will not be a bank thing, okay? They won't be making loans, they won't, what are you laughing at? A strange sense of humor. Anyway, the independent treasury system doesn't make loans. It secures the government's money, pays the government's bills. Okay, pay attention to this next question, because this is a very easy question, but it's almost a trick, okay? Which was not part of the frontier in 1830 to 1840, which was not part of the frontier 1830 to 1840. Lexington, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio, Denver, Colorado, New Orleans, Louisiana, St. Louis, Missouri.
Lexington. New York.
Denver. Who said Denver? Okay, why did you pick? Denver's the correct answer, but why did you say Denver? Okay. Okay, in 1830, did people live in Colorado? Only Native Americans who were roaming the Great Plains. That's the trick to this question. You have to think about the time period. 1830, Missouri was the West, the wild, wild West. Okay? Were there people living in St. Louis? Certainly. Were there people living in Kansas City area? Yes. But there were not white people living in Denver, Colorado. Denver was a figment of people's imagination. Okay? So with a question like that, you really have to kind of think for a minute. The importance of the 1840 election. The 1840 election is Mr. Harrison. This is an important election for a couple of reasons. One, it's really kind of not a negative campaign, an untruthful campaign. Mr. Harrison's pictures portray him as a log cabin dweller who drinks cider whiskey. They play up his Tippecanoe battle with the Indians, etc. Harrison was the governor of the territory of Ohio, granted, and he led the troops at the Battle of Tippecanoe. Did he live in a log cabin? No. Was he born in a log cabin? No. He was born in a plantation house in Virginia. Another thing that's interesting about this election is he picks as his running mate Tyler, who's been a lifelong Democrat, and Tyler switches parties, which makes him not trustworthy according to most of the other Whigs. Mr. Harrison wins the election, gives a 3-hour speech in the rain, and dies promptly after a month, becoming the first president to die in office, and Mr. Tyler becomes president. Okay, this election is significant, or this event is significant, because Mr. Tyler is allowed to have the presidency for 4 years, even though his fellow Whigs don't trust him. The Democrats are mad because he switched parties, even though he really has kind of a Democratic agenda. But it's significant because there's no overthrow of government, there's no coups, we just let the whole system continue to work. Okay? Education reform, who, what, and where. Let's talk about where first. Where does it start? In the 16, 17, 1800s, if we're talking education, what state should we talk about? Massachusetts, always Massachusetts. So education reform starts in Massachusetts. Who? Not in the 1840s. Puritan for 1640s. Horace Mann, excellent, George. Horace Mann, M-A-N-N. So what was it? Things like more standardized education, McGuffey Reader, A is for Apple, A is for Adam, B is for ball, B is for Bible. Every kid in Massachusetts schools reading the same book, or books. Lengthen the school year. Have teacher training. Make teachers qualified to be teachers, like take a test. Okay? Do they have to go to college? Not in this state. Okay? The education reform that Horace Mann institutes by 1850 makes free public education a reality in all the states. Okay, it's not as common in the South, but it's still a reality. In the city of Richmond, there's free public education for white kids. Okay?